Hey y'all, how are you doing? It's been a while since I've done a video on here, hasn't it? So if you haven't heard, or you scrubbed it from your memory, CW announced a while ago that they're going to be doing a live-action Powerpuff Girls show where the girls are now adults in their 20s and are resentful that they lost their childhood to crime fighting. Now on the surface it just looks like the 30-year cycle is happening as usual. We all know how nostalgia works, but can't say I wasn't like teensy bit curious, if not morbidly. And by teensy bit I mean that I kind of thought of an entire season 1 if I was just labeled a showrunner. So I figured, let me go ahead and put my ideas out here. I want to have a little bit of fun in this, and so why not? Now I'm going to go ahead and preface this by saying I have absolutely no idea what anybody on that show working on it is doing, okay? This was announced months ago, so it's likely already in pre-production and development anyway. They're probably already scheduling out the entire season 1. Well, then again, the pandemic happened, so yeah, whatever. They can still pre-plan shit anyway. I guarantee you none of what I'm about to say is actually going to make it into the show. This is just for fun, okay? We good? Alright, now let's move on. So why are the girls coming back together after all this time? What is it that brings them back? Well, let me tell you. So the story opens with it being years since the girls have seen each other. After they turned like 17 or 18, they just disbanded from fighting crime. As a result, criminal activity in Townsville kind of skyrocketed because nobody was there to just keep all these people in check. So a special task force was formed to combat these super criminals, partially helped out by the aid of Professor Utonium. Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup are now back together for the first time because Professor Utonium has passed away. Or he seemingly has. No one really knows what exactly happened to him. He kind of just disappeared without a trace. No one found a body and no one can really say what exactly happened. Is he dead? And if so, who exactly is responsible for this? Those are the main questions that we'll be asking for the plot. Now for the girls themselves, well, let's see what they were doing. Blossom. Now Blossom had stayed behind in Townsville, going to university and studying to become a teacher. Although out in the open she supported the task force at first, she still feels like that they're not doing as much as they should and could be doing, so she occasionally will go out and just fight crime vigilante style. Mostly taking care of like street level crime that the police seemingly just are ignoring for whatever reason. She was actually there the night that the professor had disappeared. She was going into the house and then seemingly there was just like a light seeping underneath the door and suddenly an explosion knocked her back. She was unconscious for a minute, and when she woke up, she couldn't find the professor, no one knew what happened to him. And as a result, she called Buttercup and Bubbles back to the city. Also, each one of the girls is just gonna have like a certain signifier. You'll usually see Blossom rocking a red fedora and a bob cut. A lot of times probably wearing a red or pink jacket or blazer. I figured something just to give each one of them an aesthetic. Now next up, we have Buttercup. Buttercup left the city years ago, mostly feeling like she didn't know herself, so she kind of took a little journey of self-discovery around the world, eventually landing in Thailand for about 2 years, where she ended up fighting in an underground Muay Thai ring, and also became a minor gay icon throughout the country. Yes, she is an out butch lesbian, okay? We're just going ahead and putting that all the way out there. Before she left, she and Blossom actually had a bad fight, and though she doesn't want to admit it, she does regret leaving things the way she did. You usually see her like wearing a lot of like tight-fitting clothes, things to show off like her muscles mostly. Usually like a dark green top, some black leggings, and a light green jacket, or vice versa on the top and jacket. Either way works. She also would be rocking a shaved undercut. References right here for you. Now Bubbles. Bubbles left Townsville to go to university in San Francisco, where she actually got to meet a bunch of different Cartoon Network characters. What is that about? Well, I actually thought about that. I'll get to it later. But while she was out there, she actually got into music making and started getting like a small following online, posting clips of her singing and playing guitar and instruments on YouTube. She has dreams of getting onto Broadway and wants to become sort of like an American Idol. Yes, you heard me correctly. Anyway, she tried her best to keep communication with both Buttercup and Blossom, and now that they're all back together, she's going to try her best to mend the torn relationship between her sisters. as best she can, while discovering a little bit more about herself. You'll still see her rocking the pigtails, but mostly adult style in the front now, along with wearing like a blue blouse and leggings a lot of the time. References photos here. Now, as an aesthetic choice, I also have the narrator being a radio host who's just usually reporting daily news around the city, most likely voiced by Tom Kenny, and also that weird random talking dog that's just there for some reason. You'll mostly see him like going around the city just saying hi to people or just sleeping on a park bench, things like that. Mostly just to establish just how weird this city of Townsville is, because let's be honest, Townsville is a very, very weird city. So the plot itself will revolve around 4 main things. 1, the mystery of Professor Utonium's disappearance. What happened to him? Did somebody kill him? 2, the relationship between the girls. Blossom and Buttercup have always had tension with each other, so there's a lot of chance for character development between the two of them. And we'll also give Bubbles a lot more of a chance to come more into her own. 3, why was the professor trying to create the perfect little girl? Like, I really feel like if you're gonna do this show in the modern day, you really need to answer that question, because why? What exactly possessed him to do this experiment in the first place? Like, was he just that lonely and socially awkward? Or did his wife pass away? Did she pass away during childbirth with the baby dying along with it? Okay, that got really dark, I'm sorry. And 4, just making the city better in general. Townsville kind of became sort of a police state ever since the girls left and stopped doing what they were doing, and the task force kind of scares more people than the criminals nowadays. Now, who exactly is running this task force? Well, you'll find that out. Wait, this isn't being made. If you want to know, just ask me in the comments. Anyway, so we have our girls, we have our plot, we have our aesthetic. Now, on to... Now, I think we can all agree that the villains were very much key in making that show what it was, just giving the girls other people to bounce off of. So, who's here and what exactly have they been up to? Well, let's start off the list with the obvious man, Mojo Jojo. He's still highly intelligent, but obviously this still makes him incredibly dangerous. So he is in a specially designed prison just for him to keep his ass under lock and key. Think the prison that Tai Lung was in during Kung Fu Panda, but more teched out. Also, if this is gonna be in live action, I want prosthetics for him, okay? I'm going for quality. I mean, I know I'm not gonna get this made, but still, quality. Next up, him, whose name I found out recently is short for His Imperial Majesty, apparently. Now, my friend had a really good suggestion for this and I really liked it. Him is a drag queen gang lord. They own their own club that does drag shows in the front and sex work in the back. And above everything is just like this throne with a red light just beaming down all over the place, so that him can literally look down on everybody while they're there. Think the room that Cottonmouth had in the club of Luke Cage, just more open. Him has everybody that works for them address him as His Imperial Majesty, which the girls will not ever do, mainly just because I feel like it would be funny and piss him off a lot. Side note, I also talked with my friend about it. Him would use he, him, or they, them pronouns, and they brought up a really good point. I'm gonna just put it up on screen because it is a thing to think about. Next up, the Gangrene Gang. Now, what are they up to? Well, 4 of the 5 members are in jail. Ace was on tour with the Gorillas, but I can't even get all the way through that joke. I'm sorry. I was just gonna make a joke that Ace was just on tour with the Gorillas when they got arrested, but nah, he was just too slippery for the task force to catch. So at some point he would try and break out his brothers, but not without making a little bit of noise around the city first. He's kind of gotten a lot of skills is just as a cat burglar recently, so he's very slippery. Next up, the Amoeba Boys. They're dead. They were one of the first to go down as soon as the task force was formed. Also, Fuzzy Lumpkin, he's dead too. Originally I had it like he got into a shootout in the woods with some white boys and one of them got lucky, but nah, I switched it to a shootout with the task force. And just as a little choice, the cabin that he lived in the woods has not been touched in years, so there's still just like pink hairs and bullet holes everywhere. Next up, Princess Morebutts, spoiled non-orphan Annie. She now lives off of her daddy's inheritance after he passed. Occasionally, she'll go out playing superhero in broad daylight, no less. She's just been using her money to just buy shit that she doesn't need and usually paying off the police and members of the task force just so she doesn't get arrested. She's not exactly happy that the girls are back in town. Then there's Sedusa. She's a stripper and owns and operates her own club where she makes sure that all of her girls and boys, yes, this is a gender-neutral strip club, are taken care of. And also there is Miss Keene. I feel like I'm gonna get some flack for this, so let me just go ahead and explain. Due to the formation of the task force, a lot of money was allocated towards them and just taken away from certain areas, making old Pokeokes a lot harder to maintain. So now she works at this club where she uses the money to basically pay out of pocket to get any supplies for her kids. This is mainly to comment on how teachers are severely underpaid, despite having the most important job, I would argue, in the world. I know a lot of people would probably say something like politicians or a doctor or things like that, but who do you think teaches all those people history and in med school? Yeah, thank you. Then we have the Rowdy Rough Boys. Now, the Rowdy Rough Boys are either going to be members of a gang or they're going to be the leaders of a gang. Either way, they're still pieces of shit. And I mostly want them in here just because I want one just good scene where Bubbles and Boomer are fighting and she just finally gets really pissed off and says, "Okay, Boomer," and then decks him. I really want that. Oh my god, that's funny. Okay, so those are the main villains. Now let's go on to some minor side characters. Hey, come on. Now for some smaller side characters, we have Mitch Mitchelson, who grew up and became a cop. A dirty cop. The kind of cop that extorts sex workers for money, among other things. Yeah, there's at least gonna be one scene where the girls catch him in the act and just whoop his ass. Not enough to kill him, just enough to where he learned his lesson, you know. He deserved it. We also have Dick Hardley, a name that I am still surprised they actually got away with on a kids network. Dick, now going by Richard, but still being called Dick by the girls because that's exactly what he is. Professor Utonium's old roommate, now turned tech mogul. Basically think Justin Hammer, but slightly smarter. He mostly deals with personal electronics, but lately he's been trying to get into the weapons game. He's basically Justin Hammer. He's mostly trying to profit off of war and by selling weapons to the task force. He mostly was able to do this because he, at one point, stole the professor's journal and basically tweaked the designs to sell them as his own inventions. Overall, he is exactly what his name says he is. He's a dick. Next up, Femme Fatale, the misogynistic fake feminist that many men think feminists are actually like. I either want her in jail or standing on a street corner trying to shout out stupid transphobic shit. She's her J.K. Rowling stand-in. Look, she just sucks, okay? She sucks. Do I mean Femme Fatale or J.K. Rowling? Yes. Anyway, the mayor is dead. The mayor was old, he passed away. Okay, I think we can all agree that he wasn't gonna last that long. So, in his stay, Miss Bellum, played by Laverne Cox, is now the mayor and running the city. So the task force itself was put in place after she was put in charge, but she doesn't really have any say over it, and because there's third parties involved, she can't really dismantle it. But she will occasionally feed the girls information about any like shady dealings going on around the city to try and help them out. And well, this kind of gets her in trouble with some of those third parties that we talked about. And then there is the Smiths. Now, do most of y'all remember who the Smiths were? You know, the family that tried to kill the girls twice because, quote unquote,
those Powerpuff Girls ruined my dinner.
That is the pettiest reason to become a supervillain in all of fiction, and I don't think I've seen anything that tops it. Nope, I haven't. So the dad, Harold, he started his own tech company, mainly working on building large machine parts, things for like airplanes and cars and things like that. The mother, Marianne, runs the day-to-day operations and also still kind of runs the family to a degree. The daughter, Julie, now is a lawyer for the company, while Spud Bud went to the military before coming back and working security for the company. Now, they're none too happy that the girls are back in town, especially Marianne and Harold. Marianne still rocks her dominatrix type getup with a little bit of an update in tech in the suit, while Harold is still trying to build himself a power suit, but he's still not exactly good at making weapons, so if I were doing this, I would have like Harold and Dick probably team up to try and create like at least a working weapon of some sort. Now I figured they would be like a good juxtaposition for the girls. While they're the superhero family, the Smiths are the supervillain family. Next we have Robin Snyder. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't remember Robin, but Robin was the first friend that the girls actually ever had. She still lives in the city, now running her own little boutique shop. But why do I keep saying that? She still lives in the city, now running her own boutique shop, but lately she's been being harassed by either the cops or local gangsters. Either way, the girls are not too happy to their first friend being harassed at all. Even though she was a one-time character, I felt like she would be like a good mainstay in the cast. Someone to just like keep the girls grounded and to remind them of why they were heroes in the first place. Plus her name was supposed to be a pun on Rob Schneider, and I figured why not have him just like guest star every once in a while just as Robin's dad. I mean, come on, you can't tell me that wouldn't be great, right? Come on. And lastly, Bliss. Now I really know I'm gonna get some flack for this one. If you didn't know, in the 2016 reboot of the show, they gave the girls an older sister who is significantly more powerful than the three of them. Honestly, I feel like this was a good idea, but it was just poorly executed. The whole she's a teenager who has no control over her emotions or her powers thing, yeah, that aged incredibly poorly, incredibly fast. So what's she up to? She's off in space most of the time. She's going around through other planets and usually acting as a diplomat while also just helping anybody around the universe that is in need. She's basically Captain Marvel. So that's how I would do a live action version of the Powerpuff Girls if I was the showrunner. Once again, when I first heard that this was even happening, I was just like, why are you doing this? But thinking about it and how the CW has done all the DC shows, I feel like this would not be too far out of range of something that they would do. Plus, with all the DC shows that they've done, they could definitely handle like effects and things like that pretty well. I honestly do think there's some potential for this to be good. Plus, this potentially opens up so many doors for just like other live actions Cartoon Network characters to just show up. Like, imagine an episode where like the girls call in Dexter to do like independent forensics because they don't really trust anybody at the police station to do anything right. Or imagine this, an episode where Samurai Jack shows up while trying to get back to the past. Or have Bubbles go out to San Francisco to visit Juniper Lee, which is part of the reason why I chose San Francisco, because Juniper Lee is an underrated show, okay? I say this all the time. The Life and Times of Juniper Lee is one of the best shows that Cartoon Network ever made, and I feel like it deserves a revival, at least a season 4. But anyway, that's all I got for this. So tell me what you think down below. Do you like the idea? Do you hate it? Go ahead. Tell me what else you think I could have added in. Tell me who you think I could have added on. Go ahead and tell me in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, that's basically it. I'll see y'all later. Goodbye.